Hi, Craig here from Sykes House Farm. We're down here at the Tetley building again in Leeds, so thank you to Jade and the team again for letting me use the kitchen. Springtime's almost here. I don't know if you can get any light coming through, but it's a lovely day today, which means Mother's Day is just around the corner. So today I'll be focusing on a lovely piece of lamb. So my mum, Carol, she does a great leg of lamb every Christmas. It's usually her main contribution to the family dinner. So what I'm doing today is a lovely shoulder of lamb. So this is a shoulder of Yorkshire lamb. A little bit, you could cook it pink. I'm not overly fond of lamb shoulder cooked pink. I prefer it, I think it cooks a lot better with a sort of slow cooked treatment. So what I'm going to do is start pretty basic really. So this has been left out at room temperature for about an hour and a half, so it's nice and warm. It's not going into the oven stone cold, and it will sort of help the fat melt a little bit quicker and help the meat cook a little bit more evenly. Yorkshire lamb is just second to none. It really is fantastic. So what we're going to do, we're going to start a bit of a drizzle of olive oil there, a really good seasoning with salt and pepper. We're going to go both sides. You could marinate this, you could give it sort of loads of rosemary and spices and things like that overnight. It certainly wouldn't do it any harm. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have a good twist of pepper on there, more than you think you're going to need. And then I'm just going to take a couple of garlic cloves and just smash them up a little bit. This is just going to sort of really perfume the lamb more than flavour it really. That's going to go into the bottom of the pan. And a nice sprig of thyme, that's going to go in as well. I'm just going to give that a good massage so all that salt and pepper goes into all the nooks and crannies. Put your lamb and your garlic and your thyme underneath your lamb like so. And then I'm just going to put a splash of water, that's just to sort of help keep it moist, help sort of quicken up that cooking process a little bit. And then with a bit of luck you might get a bit of juice to bulk out your gravy at the end as well. So we're going to then cover that with tin foil. Nice and tight. We've got a preheated oven at 160 degrees. So we're going to give that's a 2 kilo piece of lamb. So we're probably looking at 3.5 hours at 160 initially. So we're going to put that in, forget about it, and then you've got plenty of time to do your other garnishes, have a glass of wine with your mum, and sit back and relax while the oven does all the work. Our shoulder of lamb's been in for a couple of hours now. We can crack on with our veg now. We're going to do something a little bit different with veg-wise. Now, like I say, you can do roast potatoes and carrots and like a traditional roast, so it'll be absolutely amazing. We're kind of doing that, a little bit of a take on it. So I've got a butternut squash here. So I'm going to do a Hasselback squash. So a little bit of faff, but I think really rewarding once you've done it. I'm also going to do some steamed greens, so nothing plain, no sort of cabbage. I'm going to do some cavolo nero, and then just bulk it out with a little bit of kale from both locally grown stuff. So really, first things first with our squash, we'll just cut the ends off, really as close to the end as you can. Just start that, you can't really do anything with it. And then we're just going to gently sort of peel it down. So really carefully, fingers out the way, cut your squash. It's got some seeds in the middle, so we're going to scoop those out. What we're going to do is make little cuts. You've got a nice sharp knife, just gently press your knife in and just rock it side to side, about 1/2 centimetre apart. You don't want to go directly into the squash because it will end up cutting it in half. So you sort of press your knife gently in, every sort of 5 mil or so. And fingers out the way. So then, like I say, you're not making huge cuts, it's just to open that squash up a little bit. Like you would with a Hasselback potato, but just a really big version. These go into a tray. Olive oil, salt and pepper, a smashed clove of garlic. They go into an oven about 180, 190. For about 35-40 minutes, or you can put them in nice and low with your lamb, and then when you bump the heat up on the lamb at the end, give these 10 minutes as well. So you don't have to be fussy with the cooking time, but we're going to get these seasoned up and get them in the oven. Again, really, really simple. Right, so our lamb is almost there. I just had a sneaky peek, but unfortunately you can't smell it, it's amazing. But we've got here, you can see in there our fat. It's almost like lamb crackling, it's so good. So that's there, it's pulling up the bone, I can cut it with my finger. So we're going to give that a good rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to leave our oven nice and high because our squash is just starting to caramelise and go all gooey and sticky. So that was our butternut squash from earlier. A little bit stuck to the bottom there, but nothing drastic. Just going to get some of that fat, just spoon it over, just to keep it nice and moist. While that rests, we'll finish that squash in the oven. For our greens, whatever greens you decide to serve with it, I tend to do mine the day before, so I blanch the Camolo Nero, blanch the kale, big pan of salty water, big bucket of ice water next to it. I've given it 4 or 5 minutes into cold water to stop that cooking process. Drain it off, give it a bit of a squeeze, and I'm just going to microwave it the next day. Put it in a bowl, loads of butter, bit of cling film. So vegetables are ready to go, lamb's resting, and squash is in the oven. I've got probably the best gravy that you're going to have. It's True Foods lamb gravy. Now it's something we stock here. It's a fantastic product. It's made by proper chefs with proper lamb. If you want, you can save all your resting juices from your lamb, skim the fat off the top, and add those to the gravy as well. That's going to give you a real oomph. So once I can get a bit of fat off there, I'm going to add that. But what I'm also going to do, my mum used to talk about lamb with caper sauce. I've never had it. She used to have it when she was a kid. My grandma apparently used to make it. But I'm going to add some capers and some parsley to the gravy. So it's just going to give it a little bit of a luxurious feel, a little bit of a pop of salt, a little bit of acidity from the capers, freshness from the parsley. So I'm going to give that another few minutes rest and get my vegetables ready, and then we're going to plate up. So our lamb's rested, our squash is nice and sticky and caramelised, our greens are hot, our gravy's ready to go. I'm just going to finish our gravy with a little bit of parsley just to freshen it up. So now we can carve the lamb, moment of truth. So we've got 2 things we can do with this. We can just carve it old school style, just down like that. Nice sort of slices like that. Beautiful and tender, just melting away. Absolutely. Get that fatty bit off the side there. Just carve through like that. Beautiful and tender. Absolutely falling apart. Or we can just kind of push your knife through it like that, and just sort of push chunks of it off really. So then just grab the bone if you want, and just pull chunks off like that. Almost like a pulled lamb sort of situation. And it's so tender, it just comes away. You can serve chunks like that. We're going to plate it sort of a bit nicer for Mum today because she's a good lady. And I don't get to cook for her very often, so I've got to do it virtually. We can put our squash on there, nice chunk of that. It's a nice Camolo Nero on the plate. A little bit of kale, because my mum likes kale as well. And then some of this beautiful, tender lamb. Nice bit of crispy fat on the top. Maybe a little bit of sliced stuff. All sorts of different textures. A bit more of that delicious crispy fat. And it's Mother's Day, so a nice generous portion, of course. And then some of this really fresh, really zingy really great hearty lamb dish for Mum on Mother's Day. There you go, Carol. Enjoy that one.